Okay, in today's video, we're going to be looking at some of your Dynasty football teams.
That's right, baby.
We're going to be talking about moves that you guys could potentially make to improve the team, the direction we would take it, and just give some generalized advice. By the way, if you want your teams to be reviewed, every person who signs up for a membership over on flockfantasy.com/land, if they use our code, one of the perks of the Mother Flocker tier is that you get one of your Dynasty teams reviewed on this video series that we do each week. So this is the first time we're ever doing this. Shout out to everyone who has signed up over on the site. We appreciate y'all. Do us a favor, drop a like to show some support. Subscribe if you like Dynasty content. And I want you to comment down below as we're going and give your advice for these guys as well, so they can look at it and, not only take our advice, but what you guys say in the comments below. So Badake, you are grading our first ever team, and then I will do the second one. So who is the person, whose team are we looking at here? First ever team.
Yeah, on Discord, his name's Jared. Shout out to Jared. Appreciate you, brother. And his team is Mantra. And if you guys don't know, you can probably see the screen now. It's Corner Keep Trade Cut. We have this they have a cool little feature where you can look at all the teams in their league, and you can kind of make some trades and some trade offers, right? So before we get into it, some context for his team. Not really too much. It's just, I guess, his format: 12 teams, Superflex, PPR, tight end, premium, start 10. This is a 3-start wide receivers and a 2 flex spots as well. So you can start up to 5 wide receivers, which we really like. Before we get into it, the overall of the team, I would like to say you're ranked 6th, brother. Out of your league, according to Keep Trade Cut. That's pretty good. That means you have a really good foundation. That means you have some really good pieces there. So I think you're right in the middle of the pack, which is a really, really good thought process. I guess a really good way to be right now going into 2023. We're going to break it down by each position. So the first position, quarterbacks. And we can kind of see his team on the screen here and everything that he has. But yes, we can break it down by quarterback. So you currently have Trevor Lawrence, Ryan Tannehill, and Colt McCoy. It's definitely an area you need to improve in. But what's really good about this is that you have the 102. So I think that's pretty obvious of what you're going to do at the 102. You're either going to draft Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, kind of go whichever way you would like to go to. Yeah. So you end up having Trevor Lawrence, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud with Colt McCoy or Ryan Tannehill. So that sets you up, and Colt McCoy or Ryan Tannehill can also be some good bye-week fill-ins when that does come in, or whatever the case may be, especially with Colt McCoy taking in some good opportunity if they're going to ride with him for the first half of the year with
Kyler true. I didn't think about that. I was going to say, should we drop Colt McCoy? I didn't think that he would probably be the quarterback one. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. He probably will be the QB1 for this team going into the first start of the season. So there's 2 different options. You can keep him, hold him, and then potentially use him as trade bait maybe for that Kyler Murray team. And I did look at the Kyler Murray team. He is stacked with quarterback, right? But maybe you can look at another team that you can potentially trade him later. You can trade Colt McCoy later into the season if there's other quarterbacks with injuries or whatever the case may be. But right now, I would just say you're really good at the quarterback position once you draft your quarterback at the 102. Okay, at the running back position, I would say this is probably your weakest room out of them all. So just to go through the players that you do have: A.J. Dillon, James Conner, Clyde, Edwards-Helaire, Pierre Strong, Jerome Ford, Eno Benjamin, Dearness Johnson, and Zach Moss. So not the strongest room. I would definitely say probably the best player you probably do have here is A.J. Dillon. Still young, youthful, a guy that could potentially get some work. If we all hope that he can be the guy that we thought he would be, but that's not the case. But you, once again, some really good draft capital. So you currently also have the 107. So the first move you can definitely make is draft a Zach Charbonnet here. You get Zach Charbonnet here, but you also have the 203 as well. So, and we all know that the running back position, and Zach and I have been preaching this, you need to push. You don't want to go in the trade for a running back or spend too much capital on those guys, or like send too much capital for those guys when you're trading, right? So I really suggest that you build through the draft when you're looking at your running back room. So at the 107, you draft Zach Charbonnet, right? At the 203, which you also have, that can be so many guys depending on their draft capital. Sean Tucker, Zach Evans, Chase Brown, Devin Achane. And if any of those guys have really good draft capital and they do fall to the 203, that is a really good start for you already, right? So hypothetically, let's say that all works out in your favor. You have Zach Charbonnet and Sean Tucker as your starting running backs, or Zach Charbonnet or Zach Evans, right? So that is a really good start. And I kind of hinted on A.J. Dillon. I'm personally not in love with A.J. Dillon and who he is and what he was he didn't really live up to the hype when he got drafted, in my opinion, in the fantasy community's eyes. So you could actually sell A.J. Dillon. And the guy you can sell him to is the Hess Express, who is the #1 overall team. He does have the Aaron Jones. He's the Aaron Jones owner. So I'm not necessarily sure if he probably wants that trade, if he wants just to stack just in case Aaron Jones does go down, but he does have some decent running back depth. But hey, nothing can
so
hurt.
Much draft capital.
Yeah, nothing can hurt if you send a trade and see what happens, right? And so my first trade offer that I would say that I personally would like, and I think Zach would also maybe agree with this, I would say, why don't you send A.J. Dillon for a David Montgomery? And at the time of when I was doing my prepping, David Montgomery was the screenshot's a bit small here. I think he was RB32. What is he at right now? Is he still 32?
He's 32 now. I think he was 34 though. He
must have been 34 or something like that, around there. So he's rising up a little bit in the community, especially him getting traded or getting picked up by the Detroit Lions. So I think that's a really good trade, just so that Hess Express guy could acquire A.J. Dillon if Aaron Jones goes down in any way.
Is there any picks from Hess's team that we could work with there?
I mean,
or is it all? They're all first rounds, aren't they? Wow.
Yeah, they're all a lot of first rounds. He does have a couple second rounds, but I mean,
that could work.
You can definitely, he has three 2023 second rounds that you could, potentially ask for. But where's that window for you? Maybe it's like the 204, maybe to the 207. You could potentially get an Aaron, send A.J. Dillon for, right? But just all depends on how he values A.J. Dillon. So that's
right now looking at like 205, 204 territory as a starting conversation.
Exactly. So that's pretty good options there for you. And look, this is something that I want to bring to your attention, but not saying I would personally do it. But if you wanted to, you can. Because the way your team is structured and your league is structured, you have 3 wide receivers you can start and 2 flex options that you can play with. And Zach and I, we love to have wide receivers starting in our flex positions. So that is 5 receivers in total you should have that we would recommend that you would start in your flex options. You also have Deebo Samuel. You can trade a 27-year-old Deebo Samuel for Najee Harris, and that's technically an even trade swap according to the community. Is that something I would suggest and I would personally do myself? But if you really want, no, and that's a no, by the way. But if you really wanted to do that, you can, right? You can get a good running back that I don't believe is going to be hurt by, them investing in somebody in the draft or bringing in somebody else. Deebo Samuel is getting older. Najee Harris is 25 years old. Deebo's 27, going to be 28 years old maybe by the end of this year. So that is an option. But once again, the only reason I would suggest not to do this is because you can start 5 wide receivers, and I would rather have Deebo. But just want to put that out there for you. Okay. Going on to the wide receiver room, this is probably your strongest room, I would say. I mean, this is a fantastic room. T. Higgins, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, Jahan Dotson, Rashad Bateman, Juju Smith, Terrace Marshall, Tyquan Thornton, MVS, Van Jefferson, Kyle Phillips, and the rest goes on, right? First thing I would say, you can cut Josh Reynolds and then Turpin. That's what I would do personally. Players that you could potentially, and with the way your league set up with 3 wide receivers and 2 flex, I don't think you should move them on any of these wide receivers, right? But I think there are some wide receivers that you could potentially move if the talk of the town kind of stays the same as it is right now according to free agency. So the guy I'm thinking at the moment is Terrace Marshall. He is a guy that even if they invest in a Zay Flowers in the second round, Terrace Marshall probably has a very similar draft capital to what the Panthers would paid for Zay Flowers, right? Does he step into a better role here? Terrace Marshall. So this is not necessarily somebody I would say you need to trade right now and get value for. I would say this is probably somebody if they don't invest in another wide receiver, and if they do invest in another wide receiver in the second round, Terrace Marshall value is not going to drop, in my personal opinion. It's going to stay the same, and it's probably going to get even higher, right? So I would say there's a point in the season where you can sell Terrace Marshall potentially for mid-second, potentially for an early second, if he does get all the way up to where we believe he can go, right? You also have Juju Smith, which now thinking about it, he does have, he was a guy that I would say you could potentially trade, and maybe you couldn't trade now even with the signing to the Patriots, right? So he just won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. He was looking for a contract extension, and he did get that. So can you sell him high now? And what can you get for him now? It might be very, very difficult, but I would say you can probably get a second for Juju Smith. I would say maybe a 203, 204 area will feel really confident for Juju, but I'm not necessarily sure if I'm not necessarily sure if the league and the fantasy community really believes in Juju and likes his landing spot going to the New England Patriots. So this might be a guy you might have to hold.
210 looks like where the conversation starts at the
210,
moment.
okay. Well, I think it will rise personally because now he goes to a team where he's probably the number one, right? And it's not the best. You're right. You're going from Patrick Mahomes to Mac Jones. Not the best, right? So it's definitely a down tier. But that's where I'm thinking right now. So that was a guy that I was saying you can sell later if he does get a contract extension, and he just did before this video. Another guy I would also say was Tyquan Thornton, which also now his value is potentially hurt now that Juju's there with him. So I would also say this is a guy that you wait and see what happens and probably sell him high into the season. Not a guy that I personally love going, trying to sell high. All right, really quick, the last couple of players is a tight end position: Trey McBride, Mike Gesicki. I think in the tight end premium, you are set with tight end. Do you keep Trey McBride, and that's going to continue to grow with Kyler Murray when he does come back, and Colt McCoy there, and Mike Gesicki if he gets signed to a team, which we hope, whether that is the Chargers, the Bengals, whatever team that is, maybe even the Cowboys, his value is going to rise, and he's now overshadowed by Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I would definitely keep your tight ends in this position right now. Your team's overall, it's a good team. I give it a B plus. Once again, don't go too crazy for the running backs. Continue to build in the draft with your running backs with the 107, the 203, and go on from there. Maybe you can get another running back with I think you have the 30. I forgot that was a 304 that you also have. So I would also say maybe if somebody does fall there that you do like that could potentially get a decent draft spot, then why not go draft another running back there? But right now, B plus or B flat, it's a really good team. I think you're set moving forward.
Yeah. Last thing I would say is you could also consider tight end with that 203.
With
it's
Michael
a really,
Mayer.
really good tight end class.
I think with the tight end premium, and I think this is the reason why I didn't say it, I don't expect Michael Mayer, or I guess Dalton.
Yeah,
I
wasn't even going to say those names.
Yeah.
I was going to suggest names like Luke Musgrave, Darnell Washington,
if they get the capital,
Tucker Kraft, some of those guys in a tight end premium format. You could potentially look at drafting at the 203 depending on landing spot. But yeah, you wouldn't get Kincaid or Mayer. I agree.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, thank you so much, Jared. Hopefully that is helpful. I think Badake gave some great ideas, as I'm sure people in the comments are going to give you some great ideas as well.
Yeah.
The player or the person's team that I'm about to help out, his name is Style Clash. So shout out to Style Clash.
Huge love.
So I'm looking at his team here right now. Apparently you are 11th in the power rankings according to Keep Trade Cut. So it is probably a little bit of a project of a team, but first the context, it is a 12 team. And let me get your picks up here as well. We'll take Jared's picks away and we'll get your picks up there. Perfect. It is a 12-team Superflex PPR 1.5 tight end premium start 10. He says, picked up this orphan earlier this year, thinking it's going to be a 2-year rebuild at minimum. Outside of a few solid guys, not much value to be had elsewhere. Have the 101, 104, 112 this year, as well as all future picks. Would like to try and upgrade at quarterback as I work through this rebuild. Okay, awesome. So we can see his draft capital as well over here on the right side of the screen. He does have the 103, the sorry, the 101, the 104, and the 112, as well as the 204 and a 4th round pick. So we're going to talk about those picks and what you could do. First off, I do agree with you. This is probably a 2-year rebuild at minimum.
Right.
We're definitely rebuilding right now. It's a start 10, 14 bench spots, 4 IR spots, and 4 taxi spots for this team. So let's go to quarterbacks first. I think your quarterbacks are in a pretty good spot for a super flex format. I mean, for a team ranked 11th to have Dak Prescott, Kenny Pickett, and Desmond Ridder, that feels like a pretty, it feels like a good group. It's a decent group. I think Dak Prescott is currently underrated in the community, and I would say the same for Kenny Pickett. He hasn't proven enough that we can say with the utmost confidence he is the future, but he had a great end of the season. He's with a great organization, good talent surrounded by him, great coaching staff, and a history of successful quarterbacks. You can go ahead and keep Desmond Ridder.
Yeah,
let's just see what happens with him. I don't think you're going to get enough value to trade him.
Agreed.
But Drew Lock, highly unlikely to ever be a starter, but your benches are so deep, you can just hold him for now. But if it came down to it, I would be super comfortable with dropping Drew Lock. Keep Trade Cut doesn't have Tyrod Taylor on here because he's not in their database, but you have him on your roster. Tyrod Taylor, it's time to drop him. Okay, that's just a wasted roster spot.
Giants legend, brother. Come on.
It's time to drop Tyrod Taylor. All right, here's what I'm suggesting as an idea. I'm going to throw out a lot of ideas. You can't do all of them, but some of them you will be able to do. At the 104, if one of your league mates at the 102 or 103 ends up drafting Anthony Richardson,
right,
then I would highly suggest you could draft CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, whoever is left over, because that will be the best player available. So if Kenny Pickett turns out to be a quality starter, you have a ton of flexibility in the trade market. And if Kenny Pickett doesn't, hopefully Bryce or CJ turns into that player for you. But regardless, you are drafting the best player available. So that's what I would do at the quarterback room. I think it's, again, like a pretty decent quarterback room to have to be the 11th ranked team. But I think the reason you're the 11th ranked team is because we're about to look at your running backs. And let's just have a moment of silence for this running back room. There likely isn't a running back that you could start or even flex on this team, right? The unfortunate reality is that you're unlikely to get any value for these guys in a deal, but we'll talk about it a little bit in depth. So here's the idea. At the 101, don't overthink it. Draft Bijan Robinson. He's already valued as a late first-round pick in Dynasty startups, so it's a position of need for you. He's the most valuable player in the draft. Don't overthink it, even though some people might tell you, your team's not in a place to draft Bijan Robinson. He's already valued as a late first pick. Like, yeah, don't overthink it. Draft Bijan Robinson.
Completely agree.
At the 112, which is one of those picks that you have, you could draft Zach Charbonnet if he falls. I don't think he will. So I would go best player available at the 112, which might end up being a wide receiver. But again, we don't know how the draft's going to fall, but if Charbonnet is there, I would feel really good about it. Let's say one of these running backs that we love ends up with second-round draft capital. Zach Evans, Sean Tucker, Rashawn Johnson, Bigsby, Kendre, Izzy. If one of those guys ends up going in the second, then you could maybe consider taking a running back at that 112. But I think the 204, this is the sweet spot. This is where, for me, kind of like the 201 to the 212,
right, I
could imagine 8 to 10 running backs going off the board. So at that 204, I think is where we really want to hit on running back 101, 204. I think those are the two spots where we want to add 2 running backs. Obviously, one superstar in Bijan Robinson. That's going to improve the squad. But then also a potential starter like we got from Rachaad White, James Cook, Dameon Pierce last year. Okay, as far as Josh Kelly goes, I'd keep him just because of the uncertainty with Austin Eckler at this moment. I think people forget that when Eckler, was taking a break, it was Josh Kelly who was leading that backfield. It wasn't Isaiah Spiller.
No.
And it could still be Spiller, but I would hold Kelly because his value could definitely rise. So 2 sell ideas that I have for you would be Kyron Williams. Again, I don't imagine that you're going to get much value for him, but I just want to throw out a scenario in case it works out for you. The team I'm looking at potentially sending him to is team number 8. Or actually, it's the number 7. Looks like the power rankings changed here. So team number 7 is a team that has Cam Akers. okay? In case they want to add Kyren Williams to kind of cover off that backfield, and it's not going to cost them much to get Kyren Williams, and I don't really want much for him. So I'm kind of looking at the 401 right now. Apparently that's more valuable than Kyren Williams, but the 312 apparently, it goes either way. So right around the 312 or the back into the third, beginning of the fourth, I am more than happy to take a shot on someone in this draft rather than keeping Kyren Williams at this point. So any, third or early fourth will do.
Yeah.
The other players that I think you could sell would be obviously Caleb Huntley for whatever you can get. Keyshawn Vaughn, Chase Edmonds for whatever you can get. So literally any fourth round pick in any draft I will take. All right, heading on to the wide receiver room. It's top heavy, but you got some room to work. You got Jamar Chase there.
Yep.
Great foundational piece for the team. Jerry Jeudy currently has wide receiver 23 according to the community.
Love it.
He's a great piece. So those are kind of your two pillars. Jamar Chase is more like the guy holding the room up together, but those are your two pillars for this wide receiver room. So keep Chase, keep Jeudy. I feel a breakout is coming with Jeudy, whether it's on the Broncos or not. But here's a couple ideas. I think you can hold KJ Hamler because he is in talks for trades. But I think you can sell Khalil Shakir. And Badake might disagree because I know he likes Khalil Shakir. But I'm very open to selling him and taking shots in this year's draft. And at the moment, it looks like you can get around a mid third round pick for Shakir. And there's a lot of players in this draft that I would prefer over Khalil that at the moment seem to be falling. Parker Washington, Xavier Hutchinson, Puka Nacua, maybe if Bryce Ford Wheaton gets second or third round draft capital. So if you can go out and get an early third like this, the 303, then I would be very happy to do so personally. Outside of that, there is little to no value in this room. Okay. Guys that are ranked over 100 at their own position, Engage, Callaway. So I just don't see anyone wanting any of these players, unfortunately. Let's just be realistic. Heading on to the tight end position, it's a decent room. Not a strong point considering it's a tight end premium format, but it is a decent room. You got Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, Logan Thomas, and Cole Kmet is someone that I definitely am keeping, but I am looking to sell Gerald Everett. And I would like to do that before the draft and before the rest of free agency pans out, because I do have this feeling that the Chargers could be adding a tight end in the draft. And I think it's time to kind of capitalize on what Gerald Everett did this season, because he had some good games. A lot of times he was a must start for us on any given week over on our redraft channel.
Yes.
So I would like to sell him. Now, keep in mind, this is a tight end premium format. And here on Keep Trade Cut, which is not a Bible, we're just using it as a reference point. They're not going to value tight end premium as much as your league might. So I'm wondering if you can get let's say like a 308. Is that possible? Right now, Keep Trade Cut is saying the 308 is more valuable, but again, it doesn't take into consideration that you're in a tight end premium format. Can you get a 306 to a 308, somewhere around there? I would be willing to do that and then take whatever tight end falls in this class. If it's Laporta, if it's Musgrave, which probably won't happen, if it's Tucker Kraft, maybe, if it's Zach Kuntz, I would be willing to take those tight ends to add to this room. And I will say as well, with your picks at the 112, this is a tight end premium format. Don't be afraid to take Dalton Kincaid there or Luke Musgrave in this format. If they go first round or early second round, don't be afraid to take those guys. Yeah, they might not be instant starters from day one, but they could develop into really good players for your team. And in a tight end premium format at the 112, that's kind of the sweet spot to take a shot on one of these tight ends that we love in this class. So overall, the team's in a rough place. I'm giving it a C- right now.
Right.
Okay. I know that you orphaned it. I'm hoping that this helps. A lot of holes to fill, but you have pretty decent draft capital to work with. Last thing I'll say is let's focus on drafting best player available. I've given ideas, but at the end of the day, draft the best player available, because that's going to give you the opportunity to improve your team the most and to have flexibility within the trade market. Last thing I'll say as well right here is I'm not saying that you that you should do this. But if someone's willing to give you a haul for Jamar Chase, I'm saying like 3 first-round picks and Jahan Dotson, right? Like 3 first-round picks and George Pickens, or 3 first-round picks and I'm just trying to like throw out names here. Jerry Jeudy, for example. Well, you have Jerry Jeudy, but like someone in that tier, that caliber, and DJ Moore, anyway. So like Terry McLaurin, I don't care, right? I'm open to doing that kind of move. I don't want to because I want to keep Chase, but if it's an incredible package, I would be open to doing it because you have so many holes that you need to fill on this roster. And again, I think we're going to be rebuilding for a while. So Chase might be kind of helping us win games when we don't need to. So anyway, that's all from Style. I hope this helps, brother.
Yeah, really good advice there from Zach. And once again, comment down below what advice you guys would also give. By the way, breaking news as we're recording this. I mean, a lot of breaking news as we're recording videos. Miles Sanders signs to the Carolina Panthers on a 4-year deal. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. I mean, it's already happening with these running backs, so that's very exciting. Let's see what's going to happen in the fantasy community with Miles. All right, this is our last team, Sir Lancelot, which is a.k.a. Cocoon on Discord. So first of all, we appreciate you for the support.
And if your team wasn't done today, we just didn't have it by the time we were recording this video.
Exactly. All right, context here, 12-team, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 3 flex, start 9. Wanted to get your thoughts on my team and what I should do with my 2023 picks. I have the 102. I was thinking of going JSN, but don't know what I should do with the 112, 305, and the 308. Hoping I have to set myself up for a good competitive team for a good while. Love the content. Excuse me. Okay, so you can probably see the draft picks on the screen. Before we get into this is a stacked team, okay? I mean, Cocoon, your team is stacked right now. And
it's 1 quarterback too, right?
And it's a 1 quarterback league. So let's just get straight into it here with this team. In a 1 quarterback league, you have Trey Lance and Kirk Cousins. And this is where, look, I would say you don't have to do anything, but just to give you some to stir the pot up, why not go out and get one of these guys? Right. And I know you said you wanted to use a 102 for JSN, which I would agree you can do. But what if you send the 102 for Jalen Hurts? Because once again, we're going to talk about how stacked his team is later. Right. Why not sell your 102 for Jalen Hurts in a 1 quarterback league? What's going to hurt? Right. And you get a top 5 quarterback who finished top 5 this past year, has rushing upside, and has a stacked team with, Rashad Penny at the moment, with maybe them drafting another running back, A.J. Brown, and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert. That's just my thought process, but I know a lot of people would rather have one of these low-end guys and then have it solidified somewhere else, okay? That is one thought process I can put out there for the quarterback position. But once again, you don't have to do anything because it is a 1 quarterback league. All right, so the running back room, stacked as well. Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne, Javonte Williams, right? I mean, those top 3 guys are really great with Tyler Algier, Brian Robinson, and then the rest below. Look, you're clearly keeping Travis Etienne, my RB5, Kenneth Walker, my RB3. That's it, right? So you do have a sell window for some of these guys, like a Tyler Algier. Why not sell a Tyler Algier for some draft picks, because if they don't draft somebody, he can be of value, right? Or you draft him now because we do believe they're going to be drafting somebody. So why not send Tyler Algier for the 202 and then maybe get another running back, a running back that we feel a lot more comfortable, another running back that has higher draft capital that is coming in, whether that's Sean Tuck. Well, actually in the 202 area now, maybe you can get another tight end potentially. Maybe a running back does fall to you at the 202 in a 1 quarterback league. Whatever the case may be, why not do that? Or maybe it's a little bit too early, but why not go get the Anthony Richardson? A lot of people are saying they would rather reach and get the high upside guy, right, and get the reach for the stars. I mean, I personally disagree, but maybe Zach would say, Maybe the 202 is a little bit too early, but maybe that is something
he's willing. Would be too early.
Maybe something he would do. Another option you can do is Tyler Algier for Rashad Bateman if you wanted to continue in that wide receiver room. I think it's a little bit too much for Rashad. A little bit like Rashad Bateman costs a little bit much, but I think that's okay. Tyler Algier feels really comfortable for Rashad Bateman if you wanted to. Another guy very similar, some more options. Brian Robinson for the 203 in a one quarterback league. Kind of also feels very, very comfortable. If you do believe in Brian Robinson, I personally like him. I would say you can keep him. But if you want to trade him away, send the 203. And once again, this is a one quarterback league, so I'm going based off the community. According to this, you can get Brian Robinson for Deshaun Watson. That is wild in a one. I think that's wild. Type in Deshaun Watson. That's a fair trade according to the community. What I do.
They don't care about quarterbacks.
They don't care about quarterbacks. But why not do that? Send Brian Robinson, get Deshaun Watson, and then get rid of Kirk Cousins. Get rid of Trey Lance or whatever the case may be. We all know what Deshaun Watson can do. He's been a top 5 guy in the past. Why not do that? Okay? Wide receiver room, you do nothing. CeeDee Lamb, my wide receiver 3. A.J. Brown, my wide receiver 4. Amon-Ra St. Brown, my wide receiver 8. Chris Olave, wide receiver 9. I mean, this is a stacked team. Come on. You are set for life with this. You don't have to worry about it. All these guys are under the age of 27. I think A.J. Brown is the oldest guy, which makes sense of why you would want JSN. But at the same time, that's why I brought you the thought process of selling the 102 for Jalen Hurts, right? Or getting Anthony Richardson or getting Deshaun Watson and maybe getting a stack, or whichever way you really want to go. So I do have a couple packages here for the wide receiver room. Once again, just to go through the wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra, Chris Olave. You'll also have Sky Moore, Chase Claypool, Brandon Cooks, and then KJ Osborne. So I was thinking maybe you can do a package deal. Why don't you send Chase Claypool and Brandon Cooks, and you also have the 305, and I'll give Zach some time here. You also have the 305 for Jahan Dotson. That's a interesting trade right there. You know, Claypool and Cooks aren't guys that you're necessarily going to invest in or start, right? I mean, you already have a stacked team. Why not get another guy that we believe in Dotson? Or why don't you do that exact same trade for Treylon Burks, right? Chase Claypool, Brandon Cooks, 305 for Treylon Burks. That's also an even trade. What about a DJ Moore? And this is more of a quality over quantity type of trade. But if somebody wants to do that, you can. Right? So that is something that I would do in this team. Once again, you are stacked at the wide receiver position, so you really don't even have to make a move. In the tight end room, David Njoku, Isaiah Likely, and Hunter Renfrow. And this is, you know, you also have the 112, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, you do have the 112. So Michael Mayer could be a very, very solid option for you here, for you to draft Michael Mayer and kind of just set and forget, right? Maybe you can sell Hunter Renfrow and get something, or maybe you just keep him on your team. But I kind of did another package, the same exact thing. Chase Claypool, Brandon Cooks, the 305 for TJ Hawkinson, a guy that I really love, finished tight end 3, tight end 4 this past year. He gets traded. What is he? Only 25, 26 years old on a really good offense to get rid of Adam Thielen. I mean, I would personally do that right now, right? And just have that tight end position set and forget. So, man, once again, your team is stacked. This is an A team. There's no doubt about it. You are doing everything right. You're number 2. I'm pretty sure you're going to be competing for a championship again going into 2023. So you don't really have to do anything, my brother. You really don't.
Yeah, and I almost wonder if you could even, because I'm just thinking from the other person's side. I'm not sure I really want to take Claypool and Cooks and send a guy that I love.
Sure.
I just want one idea. What would the 112 be worth? So maybe the 112, and what other picks did he have?
Yeah, the 112, he had
305 and the 308.
The 305 and the 308.
I'm just curious if this could get you close to a conversation. Yeah. Just thinking of like what would give someone more incentive to make a deal there, because you could improve at the tight end spot a little bit.
You definitely could in that area. So a couple options there for you. Either get a quarterback, either go high upside, get a Jalen Hurts, keep your wide receivers, keep all your running backs, and improve in the tight end position. get JSN and maybe send your 112 away, like Zach said. So I like all these ideas, to be completely honest with you.
Yep. All right, guys. I hope these were helpful. Again, check the suggestions in the comments below that our viewers have given you guys. But shout out to all three of you. Thanks for signing up over on flockfantasy.com/land. We appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we will see you very, very soon. Now that those idiots are done talking, who needs some rankings?
Hell yeah, I need some rankings.
Then use promo code LAND, LAND, for 30% off any membership at flockfantasy.com.
Oh.
It's so easy. Even your grandma could scan that QR code right there.